My name is Daniel Haycock Sully, and this is my closing letter from this trans biology class. Now, what I'm going to be doing here is going to be answering the questions that I gave myself during my initial letter. The first question I said was, how does evolution work? Well, evolution works, it works by accumulated genotypical changes which result in phenotypical changes. Over time, the DNA of a species will mutate. It'll change randomly during copying when errors occur. And these errors result in phenotypical errors after time. And it's these phenotypical errors that we know as change, mutation. But these phenotypical errors, changes, they stack on top of each other like pancakes. And eventually you'll get so much that this new creature will be indistinguishable from the original creature it was, making it a new species. And that is how evolution works. Now for genes, you will have dominant genes and you will have recessive genes. When genes are inherited, a dominant gene will overlap a recessive gene if they code for the same thing. Like if your mom has red hair and your dad has black hair, and the black hair gene is dominant, the black hair gene will match the red hair gene, and you will have black hair. Now, but it's not that simple. Well, dominant genes match recessive genes. If you get two recessive genes together, you will get a recessive trait. Whereas if your mom and dad have dimples, you'll have dimples because that's a recessive trait. But a dominant gene will always match a recessive gene, and that can make you something called a carrier, where you will carry that gene. And if your partner has that gene, and you have a child, assuming your partner has that recessive gene as well, your child will have the recessive gene because you carried it. There was also things like, sex-linked genes, which affect you based on your sex. Whereas women can inherit things, for example, color blindness is an X-linked gene, where women won't get it because it's very hard to, since it's recessive, and you need two women. You need a man who's colorblind and a woman who has a colorblind gene as a carrier to get it, which is what an X-linked gene is. And for the Y-linked gene, it's basically the male has that gene, and if your dad has that gene, then you get that gene. If you're a male, of course, because women can't get that. Like Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. Now, as far as viruses and bacteria, viruses work at the molecular level, and essentially all they are is just kind of spaceships, molecular spaceships that just bring DNA into a cell, hijack the cell, and use it to create more viruses, which then in turn do the same. Essentially, they slowly take over an entire body, cell by cell. They can be dormant, or they can just run amok and do it all. Now, in terms of speed of evolution, there's artificial evolution, and there is natural evolution. Artificial evolution is also known as breeding. Dogs can be bred into completely new species within hundreds of years, but for a dog to evolve into a new species takes millions of years. So really, it depends on what kind of evolution it is. Now, really at the end here, digestion at the molecular level occurs when you eat food. The food travels through the rest of your digestive system, but what's really important, the rest of the more, but where it actually happens molecularly, the most important bit is in the small intestine. And down the small intestine, the actual food, this bolus at this point is just chyme, just a liquid full of all the nutrients, and these nutrients are absorbed through the capillaries in your microvilli and villi into the bloodstream, such as things like maltose, fructose, and sucrose. And those are into your bloodstream and sent to your cells, so that way that they can be distributed to the cells that need them and use as energy to keep your body working. Now last, blood molecularly. It's not very complicated. At the molecular level, blood is essentially kind of like a school bus for carbon dioxide molecules and diatomic oxygen molecules. Essentially, the red blood cell will go to the alveoli in the lung. It'll take the CO2 will get off. It'll get out of the hemoglobin in it, and the oxygen will get on. That oxygen will be carried around to where it's needed, and the cell will take it out, and it'll take out carbon dioxide. They kind of switch a lot. And that's it.